Every woman has a unique story, and as a journalist, I want to share with you some of the most inspiring ones. I'm Sarah Strackhouse, and this is the Strackhouse. Yes, thanks so much for joining us in our house where you can feel like you're not alone because someone else has gone through something similar and is now helping others and giving them advice. I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest. She's the president for PartnerSource, Jennifer Hurless. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
It's great to be here.
Good. Well, I want to explain a little bit about PartnerSource, but before we do that, a lot of our viewers might not be here in Texas, so I do want to give a little bit of background. In Texas, companies don't actually have to have workers' compensation for their employees. They don't even have to have something similar. But a lot of the responsible employers want to find some sort of alternative or have a plan in place. PartnerSource helps out with that, right?
That's right.
Similar?
That's right. So in just about every state, workers' comp is mandatory. Now, there are some exceptions, so there are pockets where some sort of alternative would be permitted. In Tennessee, there's an exception for public employers that can do something different. There's some carve-outs in California. Wyoming allows it for a certain type of employer. But Texas is the only state that really allows private employers to opt out of the workers' comp system and set up their own injury benefit plan for their employees.
Okay. So that's great. And it seems like I kind of know a little bit about PartnerSource. I've worked with, your team a bunch, and they're very passionate about what they do and helping employees get the best outcomes and making sure everyone's doing things properly and safe. But I know for you that kind of stems from when you were younger. So can you tell me a little bit about working hard? Because I know it kind of stems from what you were doing at a young age.
Yeah, so I have an interesting background, I think. I grew up in a small town in Mississippi. Surrounded by my mother's side of the family, which is Lebanese American, and everybody worked in the family business. And the family business was a retail store on the square in Canton, Mississippi. So I grew up with the understanding that when you own your business, when you run a business, you have to make some sacrifices. You have to figure out all of the little things that go into that. So at the same time, while I'm growing up in this family business and going there after school and sweeping floors and doing all those other things, right. My father worked as a telephone repairman for South Central Bell in Mississippi and was a union steward for the Communication Workers of America. So it was a very interesting perspective where I grew up, understanding the responsibilities of business and seeing the side of my dad, who, as a worker in a big company, how he was communicated to, his role in the union and the importance of that, and some of the issues that they had. And I took, it was when I was studying in college, and I decided to look at accounting, that I was first exposed to ERISA. It was primarily in the context of defined benefit plans and those sorts of things, but I drew on that.
For those who don't know, can you explain a little bit about what ERISA is?
Yeah, so ERISA is a federal law that governs employee benefit plans in general. Okay. So it's on both the welfare side for medical plans, all those other benefits that employers provide, as well as retirement plans. Yeah. So it covers both. And while I was an accounting major, there was a lot of this emphasis on the defined benefit plan. Well, I knew all about that from my dad's experience with the union. And so I could draw on that and how that was communicated and the value of that and the value of the employees had in that. And it was just an interesting perspective that I think I've now been able to take and apply into this setting.
And so tell me when you actually wanted to take that step into workers' comp, because I don't think most people in general might wake up one morning and be like, I am passionate about workers' comp right now.
No, and most people don't think in college that they're going to go to law school and study employee benefits and be an ERISA attorney, but I did. So I was an accounting major, then decided to go to law school, studied primarily tax and employment law, and then began my career in a large law firm doing employee benefits, traditional employee benefits, with more of an emphasis on the health and welfare side of it. So it's a long, I did that for several years. I worked very hard, a lot of long hours. A lot of grunt work. I started to feel as if I needed to get out from behind the desk doing so much research and writing. I wanted to really make an impact. I got tired of saying, no, you can't do that for these reasons. I wanted to come up with alternatives and creative ways to solve problems that businesses and employers had.
And as a family business owner, you saw that there were kind of some ways that you needed to navigate.
Absolutely.
I mean, I grew up in a family business also. My parents had a restaurant, and there were always little things that you might not realize come up when you're running a small business.
Yes. Rules that don't make sense.
Yes.
Laws that change that you need to be aware of. Selecting good partners to advise you. All of that comes into play.
Yeah. So then how did you then take that step to leave, I guess, your law firm?
Right.
Then?
Well, I was recruited.
Oh,
I was
very
recruited.
cool.
So around 2002, HIPAA and HIPAA privacy was enacted. And this was when Bill Minnick, the founder of PartnerSource, found me. He was looking for someone who could take the laws and the principles of HIPAA and apply it to this unusual setting of Texas non-subscriber programs.
That's so tricky and something that most people wouldn't even think would be an issue.
You know, the great thing about this is that once you opt out, you have the rules of ERISA that are in place, but ERISA doesn't tell you what needs to be in a benefit plan. That's up to the employer together with the employee or the union, if they're part of it, to figure out what makes the most sense for them. And then over, the whole foundation of it is built on the principle that if the employer is not taking care of their employees are going to be able to sue them.
Wow. Okay.
So it's an opportunity for really some creative design in the program. It's an opportunity to creatively resolve complex claims that you really can't do within the workers' comp system.
Yeah. And I know you work with insurance agents as well to kind of make sure it's a whole cohesive plan. And
there is a whole great industry that is surrounded in here, from insurance carriers and third-party administrators and insurance brokers. All of them bring a lot to this table to develop an occupational injury program that really works for both the employers and the employees.
Well, you're clearly passionate about it and love what you do. And, how did you work your way to, becoming the president of PartnerSource? So were you recruited for that position, or was it something you kind of worked towards?
I was recruited for the purpose of applying HIPAA to this setting. I didn't think that I would end up president of PartnerSource. I feel so fortunate to have found this great company and to now be able to lead it in this way. So I guess I really just did my work and believed passionately in what I did. And from that, things just begin to fall into place.
Yeah. Well, I know that other women who might be kind of in a similar situation might have might be working corporate or might be working to become, an executive at their company. But finding that work-life balance, I know, can be a little tricky. I know you have 3 kids of your own.
Yes.
And
you're
husband. Married. Yes. Wait, and you have a very, very cute story about how you guys met. So can you tell that?
Yeah. So, I'm the shy one in the relationship. My husband is very outgoing, and it was in this is so funny. So we met in Kroger on Mockingbird Lane in Dallas, Texas. So I had finished a workout, and I'm not known for being a great cook by any means. I'm in what he refers to as the box dinner aisle, and I'm just looking for something just to make, and I don't notice him, but this guy comes up to me and says, that one's really good. And what? But it's really far better when it's dinner for 2. And I'm like, are you coming on to me in the middle of a grocery store? And he was like, if it's working. And he was just funny.
Yeah.
It was unexpected. I definitely wasn't looking for it. I grew up thinking I probably wasn't going to get married. I wanted to set the world on fire and do some great things.
Yeah.
So it wasn't anything that I was looking for. It was just a very pleasant surprised. And he made me laugh, and he still makes me laugh today.
Well, and I feel like that's one of the secrets. I always ask, my husband and I got married a few years ago, and we've been together for a long time now, but I always ask people who've been married a long time, I say, what's the secret? A lot of people, probably 9 times out of 10, will say laughter.
That's it. That's it for me, is that he makes me laugh every day.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, so tell me, growing that family, getting married, having 3 wonderful children, how do you strike that work-life balance?
So that's a great question. So Jim knew what he was marrying when he met me. When he met me, I was working in the large law firm. I was working crazy hours. I was devoted to my career. I think the word workaholic had been used a few times. And I embrace that. I have a strong work ethic, and I'm not ashamed of that. But when I met him, he wanted certain things. And then I began to want certain things.
Yeah.
And it wasn't all about how I was advancing in my career. It was figuring out what was it that was going to make me happy.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about, as women, as professionals, this work-life balance, what I think it's really all about, it's figuring out what really makes you happy. And for me, I began to see, and this took time to develop, and it's something that I think if you're really honest with yourself, what makes you happy in different phases of the life, it's going to change. So, before I met Jim and had my children, I had a different set of priorities. When I met Jim, he was added. When I had my children, those are added. And, I'm a sister and a daughter and a friend too. And, all of those things are important in my life and bring me happiness and joy. So what I started to do was to really define what are those different aspects of my life that bring me happiness. And work-life balance, it's really not all work-life. It's Jennifer Hurless balance and what it is for me. So I try to pay, I brought this as a way to kind of show you. I've found these different websites that will do journals that you can really make yourself that fit your life. And one of the things that I found was this life balance sheet. I was able to define what were those key areas of my life. So for me, it was marriage first, because I have found when Jim and I are strong, the rest of our life and everything around us is strong.
Everything else falls into place. Sure, that I've heard that too. Putting your marriage first
is what's key. It's what's key for us. So marriage first, and then I evaluate children. And with 3 children, each one needs something different at different phases of their life. My job, my career, my relationships as a daughter, as a friend, as a sister. Health and fitness is important. I found, in different phases of my life, that's the first thing that I let go. And it really, for me to be balanced and happy, I need to remember that and make that a priority.
I think I hear that all the time, and that's actually how I feel too. I notice that when I get tired or I'm I feel like I'm run down, I stop working out. And for me, my workout is my escape. Yeah. So I completely understand that. And I think a lot of us think, oh, the workout can go, I'll just skip it today. It'll give me time to do other stuff. But that has to be a priority too.
The same thing on spirituality.
Yep.
That's another aspect of me, and whether I find it, in my church, or if I find it in nature, or if I find it, working out, praying, whatever that might be, that's another piece of me that brings me happiness and balance. So what I try to do, and I find I have the most successful weeks when I pay close attention to how am I doing in each one of those areas.
Oh, that's so smart.
And if I get it's okay to not be perfectly balanced. There are going to be times in your life where your job needs more, your marriage needs more, your children need more, your aging parents need more. And at the top of that list, really is me. And making sure that I have enough to give and I'm taking care of myself.
Because you can't take care of anyone else unless you take care of you.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless you're happy with yourselves too.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Well, kind of going along those lines, if you want to look at the camera, tell other women who might be either starting out their career or struggling with that work-life balance and striking that whatever works for them, what would you tell them? Or a younger version of yourself who is just kind of starting out, what would you tell her?
I think I would tell a younger version of myself, you got this. I think I stressed so often about doing things perfectly, doing what other people expected of me. I mean, I have high expectations of myself, and I grew up in a family that had high expectations of me. I think a lot of women put an unusual amount of pressure on themselves to make things perfect, and you don't have to.
That gave me chills.
I mean, you simply don't.
Yeah.
You know, do the best you can. If you're going to sleep every night, and I tell my daughter this: if you are giving what you have, and doing the best that you can with the talents that God gave you, you should be able to rest easy at night, knowing that you're doing the best that you can.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Well, if people want to find out more about you, we've kind of run out of time here, but if they want to find out more about PartnerSource, where's the best place for them to go?
On our website, PartnerSource.com. We're also on LinkedIn. I encourage anyone to follow us if they're interested.
Awesome. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us. Anything else you want to leave people with?
I think I would just say to men and women out there that are trying to balance, I will say one last thing.
Yeah.
I would not be able to do all that I do without a partner that wasn't there with me. And we spent a lot of time. I think that it helped getting married a little later in life, where you know yourselves a little better. But we each have our areas. You know, he's director of extracurricular activity, and, you know, I'm over academics and health. And together we work as a team, and both of us have our professional goals, but we remember that our family is first. And really, that's what makes this work, is that partnership.
I feel like that's the key to everything, and something that a lot of people can learn and try to put in the forefront. I love that. That's great advice for men and women.
Right.
That's
great. Goes
great.
both ways.
Yeah. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much again for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So, of course, we will put all of the information in the captions. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Strackhouse. Thanks again. If you'd like to nominate an inspiring woman, email me at sarahstrackhouse@gmail.com. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.